Yes, folks, hi. The screen was paused for a second, so I didn't know you were there. My bad. This is Food for Action. Obi Morant here in the house. I'm excited about tonight's show because my special guest tonight is like, I'm actually nervous, and I've played all over the world in front of major stages and arenas and everything. And I'm like nervous because this woman, this Black queen, is so blessed, and she spreads the blessings around to everybody, and she extends her arm and her knowledge and her wisdom and experience with people like me, who are babies to activism, and even though I'm an old man, I'm still a baby in this environment. So, but I've been blessed with this platform, and Miss Kimberly Latrice Jones is going to be with us at about 7 o'clock. So that's going to be probably in about 10 minutes. This is going to be an awesome night. We're going to talk about things. She's going to teach me some more stuff, and hopefully everybody here will be engaged as well, and wanting to learn some new stuff, to understand from another person's perspective who is well more versed than I am. So in about 10 minutes, Kimberly Latrice Jones will be with us right here in the house on Food for Action. Boom. It's awesome. It's a blessing. Before we get to any of that, of course, as I do every week, I want to go ahead and thank everybody who's watching now. Thank everybody who will be watching later. This is going to be awesome. You want to share it with your whole family and your friends and everybody else in the universe that you know, your coworkers, everybody, because you are about to have stuff imparted into your life by Miss Kimberly Latrice Jones that you probably never heard it, and heard it the way that she delivers it. It's amazing. She is also a New York Times bestselling author, so she's got that business down. She's directing film now. I mean, like, she is just like a superhero Black queen. Awesome. Let me go ahead and do the mission statement, because as I said, and probably till the day I stop breathing breath, I will always say this, because just in case there's new listeners, just in case there's newbies to being introduced to this, I want you guys to understand why I'm doing this, and why I hope that we're all doing this and we're all engaging. And so let me read the mission statement. It is Food for Action is now us. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. I and we acknowledge and express the racial divide, racism, oppression, exploitation, systemic racism, and violence against Black women, Black men, and Black youth in the United States of America and all over the world. That is what we're doing. And we are trying to proactively help create a path to a true United State in America. That means in the physical, mental state, the environment. We're creating that. That's our objective, is to create that, so that there is no more division, there is no more oppression, there is no more racism, there is no more systemic racism. So we're going to work together to do that through conversation and dialogue with everyone. Everyone comes to the table here. If you hate me, you come into the table. I'm inviting you. If you love me, you're invited. If you don't even know yet, you're invited. It doesn't matter, whatever, because we need to learn something from everyone so that we can understand how to approach you, what to say to you. We want to cure this problem. We want to stop the murders. We want to stop the oppression. We want to stop the seats at the table from being uneven. We want to stop our school systems from in inner cities from being less than, excuse me, when it comes to technology, books, and so on. And monetarily, we want to stop there being such vast differences between what we are able to access and what white folks are able to access. And it is up to us and me, I believe that it's up to us to make my white brothers and sisters understand that their fight is not just momentary. Your fight is not just temporary. Your fight or your assistance or your help with the struggle or your marching or your text messages or your Instagrams and your posts and whatever else, that's not just for a moment. It is something that has to continue, because we're fighting. Brian, what's up, my brother? We're fighting and we're struggling and we're in pain because of something that was done to us, that was thrown upon us. And it seems that we're fighting to make things better ourselves, but we don't get a lot of folks like my brother Brian Dales. Y'all should look him up. He's got a nice thing that he does too. It's awesome. But we're not doing, you guys aren't doing the work in my understanding that is necessary, because we didn't perpetrate this against ourselves. Have there been people involved? Like, a lot of people like to bring up, well, there was slavery, and in slavery there was other black people that sold other black people. Well, sure, that happened, and that happens in every part of society amongst divided communities and so on, where people try to, there's evil people that try to get one up on somebody else and so on. That's what happens, but that's not how we got designated to this area. There was a people that approached those people to sell people into that ended up being delivered over here in boats, families stripped from each other, sold into slavery, became property and less than people. So we have to understand all those things. We can't make corrections for the future until we understand why it's there, what happened, how did these things get established. Just like systemic racism, I talked about that a lot last week, what was that, Sunday, and we have to understand that systemic racism doesn't mean what a lot of people think it means. They think it is synonymous with racism. No, systemic racism is an effect of when a people, for example, let me break it down. So when this country had these forefathers, and I'm going to talk about them on Sunday, this coming Sunday, because that's going to be interesting. But let me go quick, because Miss Kimberly Latrice Jones is coming in real soon. So let me finish this up quick. So systemic racism, for those of you who do not understand what the actual definition means, it is an inference to when the country was established, when rules were being established, when law was being established, when rights were being established, when schools and education and the medical system and ownership of building businesses, whatever system you want to think of, when these things were being established, being formed and quote unquote founded, we were not allowed to be part of that. And all of those systems in some way or shape or form still exist today. And a lot of those things even exist in the same exact form as they did when those folks sat down with pens and all that and paper and doing that. And so we're still attempting to work ourselves into being part of we the people. Because in those documents, in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, in all these any of these different documents that were written that were supposed to resemble and be for all the people, we the people. We weren't people. In our minds, we knew we were people, but in this country, we weren't considered people. So in effect, after all these things were established without us even being considered or being part of it, now we have to try to make our way. So there was Jim Crow, civil rights, and then, and now we're still fighting for the same things because we haven't had enough change to the foundational elements of the United States of America. Before I keep going, please know I'm not wearing these glasses to be cool. These are to help my headaches because staring into the computer and so on. And they are prescription glasses with tinted. It was like a doctor. They had to do this special because of my chronic Lyme disease scenario. Brian, by the way, thank you, man. I just got a text before I got on here. So thank you for donating. I'm gonna make sure I say thank you to you on Facebook when I'm done. Thank you so much for giving to the cause. If anybody else needs to know, I am doing some fundraising to help maintain these blocks that I have to do twice a month to help with the pain that I go through. This daily ridiculous pain. You'd cry for me and hug me if you had to see me go through it. But I am doing fundraising, and you can find out about that on my profile when you're done watching this. Just scroll around and you'll see different things about that. So at this point, we know that I think about 8 minutes, we are going to be blessed with Kimberly Latrice Jones. So if you have to step out and do something, please go step out and do that, and then come right back, because I'm telling you that this woman is going to be a blessing to your life. And she is going to be able to explain a lot of things better than I could even imagine explaining it. I listen to her when she's on different people's shows. Like, I literally troll her. It's like so weird. But because I want to see and I want to understand how because she is so effective with what she does. And she's winning because of it. And she's known all over the world, literally. Like people call her, and like, for example, she was supposed to be here last week. She wasn't able to come because of the Breonna Taylor situation, how heated that got. She was called to go over there and help there. And she did some marches and some not little, but she did some interviews and speaking to people outside and all that stuff. So she's so intertwined in the movement for racial justice and equality that, like, literally she gets those calls that maybe I'll be blessed to be able to take part in that someday too. She's gonna bless us, man, and I just hope everybody tunes in. Tell your friends, tell everybody, tune in, because in about 7 minutes, she will be here with us live. And I'm going to literally try to squeeze every piece of information that I can in the bit of time that we have together online. And she is gracious with her time, but I know, I don't want to tire her out, since she's, she did due diligence, man, to get back to me a few days ago, as you saw in my post after all that. And she made a date where she's supposed to be probably relaxing and chilling. And she said she can come on tonight. So I was like, what? So please tune back in, call your friends, text everybody, and let's get this with her. I'm sure she'll answer some questions if you guys type those in. So let me actually open my phone to Facebook now too, because for some reason I don't get all of the messages through this BeLive app. It's good for streaming because I can stream on Facebook and YouTube with this app, but there are terrible technical problems with it. And so, by the way, if anybody out there has any knowledge of a good app that can stream live with Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of those platforms at the same time, please let me know. Right? Drop me a line, send me a message or something, a text message or whatever. My phone number is located on my page. I don't hide nothing. I'm full open and transparent with you. So please, somebody, if you have any knowledge of an app that it works because you've used it, please. I don't want to get like 100 emails of all these different apps, and then they're all like, what? So I need an app that will do what I'm doing now, which is able to stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, at least those three at the same time, or if it can do one or two of those at the same time, like this one is supposed to be able to do, except that it doesn't let me see the comments when they come through. I was lucky to see Brian just now. So again, thanks for you, Brian. Brian, ain't you traveling around the world in a what do you call that thing? In a freaking what do you call that thing? You're in a I forget what it's called. Those really nice things that you can live in. They're like homes, like not a mobile home, but I can't remember. Well, you'll let me know whenever you're there, I'm sure. All right. So again, I hope everybody understands what the purpose is of why we're doing this, and why I am doing my best to reach out to as many of many. Oh, hey, Tony O'Neill, man, what's up, brother? Oh my gosh, sir, what a privilege to have you here. I don't know if you're here this very second because everything is delayed a little bit here with the messages, but thank you, sir. Tony O'Neill is one of Charleston, South Carolina's. I think he's living in the lap of luxury now, retired, but he is one of the most prominent Black attorneys in Charleston, South Carolina forever. Like forever. I mean, if you're still doing it, God bless you. You trust me. That is a pillar of, I bet you he's like doing like requests for biographies and whatnot all day. But thank you for stopping in again, guys. Miss Jones is going to be joining us shortly. So don't you fret. And I want as many people to be around to hear what she has to bring to the table. I know that you guys have other things to do. You got to bump in and out, eat food, and feed your children and all that kind of stuff. Just carry your phone with you or something, and take part in this one. This is it is a blessing to be able to have. Look, people should pay like $1 million to have her as a guest on your show, and she's just doing this one, and I'm blessed, man. I've been reaching out to people trying to help bridge the gap and fight this racism thing since June, only June, and here I am about to be having one of the leaders of activism. And author, and I mean, she's just amazing all around woman. She wears 12 hats, and she is going to be here live in moments, which is, I don't know, blessing might not even be the biggest word, but I guess it comes from God. So it's a blessing. By the way, can you guys, anybody who hears this, if you can let me know if you're able to see the what do they call that, subtext or whatever they call it. I got that. I think I got that working, and literally I did that because my Smunchkin, my daughter, who's my favoriteest person in the whole wide universe, she when I was visiting with her not too long ago in San Diego, she had the subtitles. That's it. She had the subtitles on every time we turned on the TV. It didn't matter if the TV was loud or soft. And I found out. I don't know if I'm allowed to divulge this, but I'm gonna anyway. So Smunchkin, if you see this, sorry, I love you. I found out that she actually does it because her husband he plays these crazy video games for like 49 hours straight, and good man in the military and all that. but he play, that's his thing, man. His thing is those video games and his car. Well, anyways, so he plays these video games and he gets quite to certain levels of volume that might be a little bit distracting from the movies that she may be watching. And bless her soul, instead of fighting about it or whatever, she just throws the subtitles on and she watches whatever, and she gets it all out of it. She could recite every moment of every story she's ever seen. She's amazing. That's my Smunchkin that I'm talking about, my daughter. But she does that. She just sucks it up, and he's happy playing his games and she's reading the subtitles. So it's really cool. And I got to learn how to do that while I was there. And so I said, you know what? My Smunchkin watches these after she works. She's a workaholic. And so when she's done working, she'll tune in and watch these. And so I figured that what I would do is I would make sure that I would make sure that I had the subtitles so that she could see and read them and so on, and she could feel comfy with it and wouldn't have to worry about struggling with the volume and all that stuff. So You know, I love my daughter, so I'm gonna do whatever. You know, if she needed an interpreter, I would like hire somebody somehow to go over there and interpret whatever. You know, it's my smudgekin. She can have whatever she wants in the world. She's my favorite person in the whole wide universe. So, anyways, as we wait for Miss Jones to join us, let me remind everybody that I will be getting back to this segment where I would throw focus about a Black life that we've lost, woman, man, youth, um, um, through senseless, you know, stuff. Most of the time it ends up being, you know, that corrupt element that I talk to everybody about there is a corrupt element within police departments, and so there are so many lives that we lose every year from that type of thing happening. So so what I started doing is that in each show I will bring attention to another Black life, and I give you guys the source of where to find this information and more information like it, because a lot of people believe, or they for some reason don't know. Oh my goodness, hold on, I gotta shut up now because I see somebody stepping into the picture here. Hold on. So give me 1 second. Yeah, so I got her in 2 seconds, but I will continue that segment shortly. Please, you guys, I would like, you know, if you're tuning in right now, if you're watching later, you'll just have to give it to the air. But, you know, much high fives, much mad, crazy love to the one and only Queen. I always call her Queen. I don't know what she likes. Oh, because see, this is the first time I can see her smile when I say that. So, and it is a beautiful smile, I might say. So, this is Kimberly Latrice Jones. She's a New York Times bestselling author. She is directing movies. They're making one of your books into a movie or something, correct? Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. So I'm going to shut up in a second, but I wanted to introduce you guys to her. She's won NAACP Image Award. She is an activist. She's all around the world. Like I said, we had to give her up last week because of the Breonna Taylor stuff, and she was requested to do that, which is way more important than looking at my face. And so, but she is, instead of taking downtime, she's here with us today. So I want to welcome you. I'm nervous, just so you know. I played on stages all over the world, and right now I'm nervous for the first time. So
no nervous.
So welcome to you, cuz. So I'm going to ask you one question, and it's a question that I ask everybody. And after that, we're just going to be organic and just do our thing. Okay. So the question that I want to ask you first is, which I think everybody should always know, at least from the people that I speak to, and probably they'll learn to do that with other folks as well. When was the first time in your life, doesn't matter, young, old, whatever. Well, you're not old, but you know, old. I'm old. But what was the first time or the first experience in your life where you said, "What? That's racism. That's the thing that I, you know, heard about." Yeah. Maybe from dad or mom or somebody.
I was maybe like around 8 the first time. And I remember, it's funny because it rolled into something else. So like I remember overhearing some family members talk about President Reagan. See, I am old.
What? Yeah. Wait till I tell you how old I am.
Yeah, look, I always tell people how old I am because I'm like, listen, I'm glad to have made it this 44 years. I'm grateful.
Amen.
Yeah, I was maybe about 8 years old, and I remember overhearing some family members talk about Ronald Reagan and how this like war on drugs was really like a war on Black people. And right. The funny part about that was maybe a few months later, my mom used to travel a lot for work, and she took us to where did she take us? She took us to DC. And my older sister, I'm the baby, and my older sister, who's about 6 years older than I am, um, was a teenager. She was like maybe like 14 or something like that. And the news stopped her and started asking her questions about President Reagan, and said they wanted a young person's perspective. They wanted like a teen
Right.
perspective. Sister super shy and like clammed up and would not talk. And I just like reached up and grabbed the mic and was like, I have something that I have to say. And I basically like repeated everything that I had heard from that conversation.
Right. Right.
The funny part is I like jokingly say that's the first time I went viral, because it was our version of viral back then in the 80s, which was the national news. So I made like the national news, and
Right.
people were like calling my mom. We lived in Chicago, but we have family in Mississippi and different places, and people were calling from Mississippi and calling all over the country, being like, "Did you see your baby cousin President Reagan last night?" Like, so, yeah, that's the first time I remember like hearing a conversation
Right.
about race. The first time I remember experiencing um, racism, like personally for myself, was riding the L train. Um, when I was like in middle school.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I remember a lady being like frustrated with me and my friends, like doing shit that kids do, like making
Right.
breakfast or whatever, just
Right.
like doing what kids do.
Right.
And I don't remember exactly what she said, but I remember in that moment the way she made me feel and the way that it went. What I remember of it is that I knew it was like a racist response to black children.
Right. Man, see, because we went through it when I was little, because my mom is white and my
Hmm.
dad is black,
Hmm.
and they did it, when it was like, there might be like five of those
Yeah,
couples, but so we saw stuff. It was just kind of our like everyday thing.
especially
You
being a biracial family.
Yeah. Oh man, people walking around saying, like, my brother even
Just
reminded me of my brother. Listen, my brother reminded me of something that happened when we were getting ready to perform. I was performing when I was a little kid, but we talk about that some other time. But we were walking through this grounds. It was like a festival,
Mhm.
um, and and a lady yelled, because there was all of us walking around. Yelled, "Look at that white woman with that her baby." Yeah. And this is like the things that were happening common around. Yeah. But anyways, so I always like to know that, because I like to know, like,
Scratch that lady's eyes out.
I know, right? um, I always like to know where, what was what do they call it? The emphasis of where it came from, like,
Yeah,
because put in you somewhere, at
yeah,
some point, and then later on it just goes poof, and it
yeah,
snaps.
yeah.
So tell me, so what did make you jump to the table finally, at whatever part, and where you considered yourself, hey, I'm an activist now. This is a mission for me. This is what I got to do.
It's funny because I think now that I reflect on it, my activism started um, so much sooner than me being able to identify it as
Okay.
activism.
Right.
Because I definitely just looked at it like part of what I'm supposed to do on this earth is care about my own community.
Right.
Um, and so that's been the case probably like most of my life, because my mother, um, not a radical activist like me, but like my mother has always been someone who, you know, caring for community, doing in community, um, being concerned about those who are more, who have less advantages and less privilege than you have, has something that she always instilled in us.
Yeah.
It's funny because I always say we grew up, I jokingly say we grew up hood adjacent. Um, we grew up hood adjacent.
Can I
Uh,
borrow that? Oh, good. You always have some stuff to say. I'm just telling you. You got some sayings, man.
Yeah, so we grew up in a neighborhood that was like a middle class black neighborhood. I grew up in a two-parent home. Um which is funny to say that out loud, right? That's
A thing to say,
a
right?
say that's like indicative in our culture, like, oh, there's this bonus of I grew up with both of my parents, because
Yep.
in some ways, for especially a lot of kids of our generation, I see it getting better with this generation, but for
Yep.
kids of our generation, you know, that was kind of an abnormality.
Yeah.
um,
And we know where that comes from. We might
right.
have to talk about that in a minute too.
Yes,
But
for sure.
yeah.
And so I grew up in a two-parent home in a middle-class neighborhood, but the neighborhood that I grew up in Chicago was boxed by the hood. And so
Right.
it's my neighborhood, and if you go east, north, or east, north, or south, it was like the hood, like gang
Right.
infested, drug infested. And then if you went west, it was like nicer than us. So we're like middle class. And then if you went west of us, it was like upper middle class.
Right.
But north, south, or east, it was the hood. And so it wasn't that big of a gap. Like it's probably maybe like 6 blocks in each direction where that starts. And
Right.
so I was, you know, my mother instilled in us community service, and that, you know, we and expressed to us that we had a certain level of privilege, you know, growing up middle class, growing up in a two-parent home, having access to resources, her being able to give us resources that other kids, you know, don't have. And so my mother was very community based. My grandmother was very community based. My grandmother was known amongst the gangs. My grandmother was a minister. She was known amongst the gangs in Chicago. If there needed to be a treaty, if people needed to have a sit down, they'd come and get my grandmother.
What?
Yeah, and my grandmother was like this little man. She was a little piece of leather, but she was well put together. Like,
That's truth right there, though.
yeah, she was like this little bitty thing. She probably weighed 110 pounds soaking wet. You know what I mean? But she was, you know, a taller woman, but she was very thin. And my grandmother was known for that. Like my grandmother brokered so many peace treaties in Chicago between the gangs that it was like crazy. And so my mother picked that up too. And but my mother was different. My mom's a little more bourgeois.
Oh,
um
right,
so
right.
yeah, so my mom was kind of the set of like, you know, donating to Goodwill, volunteering at food drives, visiting sick kids in the hospital. Like she was that kind of person that like gave to the community in that way. Kids who lived a few blocks away from us, who were friends of mine, who lived in the more, you know, and lived in the far more disadvantaged areas. My mom was the mom that if your mom kicked you out, like you come stay at our house. Like
True.
I have so many siblings that are really neighborhood kids that when they had nowhere else to go, my mom would take them in. My mom
True.
took in anybody.
So that
And
had to affect you. That had to affect your mentality too,
yeah,
knowing what else you felt and what else you were already was being birthed inside of you
yeah,
when it comes to, you know, making moves and making this mission start to happen. Seeing how invested your family was
yeah.
into this, that had to be deep.
Yeah, definitely. And then, you know, I have family members in Chicago who are politicians, and our local politician was this guy. Our alderman was Lemuel Austin. May God rest his soul, and he really was concerned about the children of his ward,
Yeah.
with 34th ward, and so he created all this programming for kids in the neighborhood. Like I have a trophy around here somewhere that I still have. I was on his cheerleading team. He had the Alderman Lemuel Austin cheerleaders. And when
Right.
events or rallies or whatever, we would like go and like cheer for him, you know?
Guess
And
what? Guess
um,
what? Only black folk do that. I'm just telling you.
yeah,
You ain't gonna see no white congressman or alderman or nothing with no cheerleaders and things happening like, nah.
yeah, no. So he
Sorry, white.
and he knew us, and like his office, he set up his office right there in the middle of our hood. And if something went wrong, you could just walk into his office and talk to him.
True.
You know what I mean? And so I thought that's what politicians did. I thought that's how they were
Right.
because of Alderman Austin. And I went to school with his kids. And,
Right.
you know, if something happened, or if, you know, if there was a police situation involving a kid that he knew, he'd go down and step up for them. I
True.
thought all politicians function the way he functioned. So I had this really positive view of politics, of like, these are people who are in the community, who care about you, who create programs,
Right.
who show up for you, the police. Little did I know that man was a rare breed.
Yeah, I know, right? Listen, folks, you're blessed, being blessed right now. Kimberly Latrice Jones. She is a New York Times bestselling author. She is an activist like one of the leading activists in our country today. Everybody calls on her when they got a question of how, what, when, or why. Now, let me ask you, so how did you partner with this other person to do this book?
So it's my good friend Geely, and she's white, and she saw this article.
Oh, can I interrupt you real quick?
Yes.
Again, she just said something that you guys need to hear. She has a best friend that's white. So just because we're in this activism thing, just because we're on this mission, folks, it doesn't mean that we don't like white people. I'll say this again. You might laugh at this. My mama's white. My baby's mama's white. And my daughter looks white. So we love white people. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and that's what I always tell people. Just because you're pro-black doesn't mean you're anti-white. They're not mutually, they're not
Mutually
synchronized.
right.
Caring about all people is not mutually exclusive. It's just like we always say, at this moment, at this current juncture, our house is on fire. We're just trying to put the fire out.
True.
Listen, I'm open to any allies that are willing to grab buckets. True. You know what I mean?
High five, fist bumps, and all that. Right?
Yeah. So in 2015, after the death of Freddie Gray, there was this news article that came out, really quick blip that came out in the news about a group of kids in Baltimore that got trapped behind a police barricade. And so they did something like really stupid. Is like they heard that protests were going to be happening around this school, and they decided to shut down school and send kids home early. But they also decided to shut down public transportation, and these are high school kids, so they take public transportation home.
Right.
That's how they get home. And so by shutting down public transportation, but shutting school early and telling them to disperse, they didn't have any way to get home. Yeah. So they were stuck. They're calling their parents. They're doing whatever. They're stuck. And so some of them got trapped, even though they weren't participating in the riots. They got trapped behind a police barricade. And so it was like this quick little news story, and then it went away. And my co-author, Geely, she saw it. And she, being a mom, she was like, what happened to those kids? She dug around and did some research, tried to find out what happened to them. She couldn't get any answers. And she's a writer, so that's how she processes information, is by writing. And so she wanted to tell this story about what it looks like that kids are living in these experiences with us, but we're not in conversations with them. And so we wanted this to be a young adult novel, a novel for teenagers, so give them a conversation. And so Geely felt like as a white woman, she didn't have the proper lived experience to tell this story, and that she shouldn't tell this story. Right. And so she came in. At the time, I was the general manager for a children's bookstore called Little Shop of Stories in Decatur, Georgia. And she came in while I was on shift. She kind of lurked around a little bit. We were friends. We were in a book club together. We were friendly. We had gone on some writing retreats, but we weren't friendly enough for her to like have my phone number. You know what I mean? And so she came into the shop, and she said, when she finally got my attention, she's a lawyer by trade, so she had this bulleted list of how she was going to convince me to write this story with her. She got about 2 bullet points in, and I said, you had me at let's write together. And now we're like best friends. Now we're together all the time, and
that's cool.
Done all this stuff, and we've had all these amazing experiences with each other, and we've created a love language of how to communicate about racial equality coming from different backgrounds. And so part of what we do when we go to high school now is use our book as a tool to teach kids how to have those hard conversations.
Listen, that is dope. If you guys have not read the book, it is called I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. Did I say that right?
Yes.
And this book is ridiculous. If you don't, you need to buy it for your friends. You need to buy it for your children. You need to tell them to share that book when they're finished reading it with somebody who can't afford it, if they're having some situation like that. Or you could be really cool and troll Miss Jones until she's like, okay, I'll give you a book so you'll stop trolling me. That type of thing. There's plenty of ways to get things done. Trust me. Ask her how I got her attention, because I did just that. So.
There's actually someone doing like a free giveaway of it too, and I think it's in my stories. I posted it.
Will you share that? Yeah, share that with me, and then I'll tag me in it or whatever. That'd be cool. So let me say, so folks are jumping in and out of this thing. So I don't know. I can never know how many people are here when they're here, but I always say that, listen, 2 is 20, is 20 is 200, because that's what it ends up with.
People always watch this stuff later.
Yeah. So for you folks who are watching now, thank you so much. text your other friends, tell them to jump on and get this while they can. And then if they can't get it now, please get it to them later. It's so important, man, to have someone of this stature to speak to you and speak into you. So what I want to know next. So you got this freaking NAACP Image Award. What the? I think that was the first time, even after speaking with you, that was the first time that I started getting nervous. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, snap.
Well, don't get nervous because I got nominated. I didn't win.
Oh, what? No way. We could
Yeah,
have just kept it alive like that.
I was
But
nominated.
listen, but guess what? That's still freaking awesome.
Yeah, no, I listen, I am grateful for the nomination. I am super, honored that I was even amongst the list of writers
Yep.
that on that list with me.
That's
And
dope.
I'm just like grateful. Uh I'm just like super, super, super grateful to have been
Yeah.
nominated, have been in that room with so
Look,
many like brilliant minds on the night of the
look,
awards. And it's funny because the awards was in February, so it was like the last thing I did before COVID lockdown. Um,
ain't that something, huh?
yeah, so it was like the
That,
weekend of like February 24th or something like that.
that,
And
that, that's God timing right there. To
yeah, right. So we
put that
got to
in for
go
you.
to the awards
Yep.
ceremony,
Nice.
experience it in all its as my friends say in all its full drag.
Yep.
And
And
because
you didn't walk away with COVID.
I'm sure it's going to be in a different award ceremony this year. With
Heck yes, there will. Yes,
yeah,
there
so
will.
we got to experience it. We got to get dressed up and go to the red carpet, and we sat like we were in the balcony, but we could like because we were nominees, they had us positioned pretty well, and so
Right, right.
like I'm like I can see Rihanna, she's right there. Oh,
It's funny. It's funny because for those people who don't know, because I know that a lot of white folks, they write me messages and so on. So white folks come in and out of this thing too. And if you don't know what the NAACP is, you probably should. And it is an organization that is its strict purpose is to help every angle of Black life. At least that's what they are supposed to do. Sometimes it's hard to get to because of
yeah.
the systemic racism. There's so many things that are
Oh,
broken, or
Avenue.
I want to say broken because they were never right in the first place. But there's so many things
Correct.
that are problematic for us as a Black community, as
Yeah.
Black people, that they can't get to everything. It's kind of
No,
impossible.
it's impossible. And that's
Right.
what I always say, like our plans have to be multi-tiered and people have to do what their strong suit is. Like
Yeah.
I endorsed an app recently called Invisible Hate, and like their only purpose of Invisible Hate is getting down Confederate monuments. That's all they do. They don't
Now,
do anything else. They're not concerned with any other issue in the Black diaspora. All
yeah,
they're concerned about is getting Confederate monuments down because it does have a psychological effect on you to walk around in this space where people are saying someone who
sure does.
was to keep you enslaved is someone who
Sure
should
does.
be exalted. And
Yep.
our kids shouldn't see that, right? Like our
Yep.
kids shouldn't experience that in that way. And so, and we as adults shouldn't experience the uncomfortability of being, at a park in the middle of the square and there's,
All over South
black
Carolina where I
here,
grew up.
whatever.
But yeah, and it's especially when we're still in a day where the education doesn't teach us what we're supposed to be knowing about the Black experience.
Yeah.
So when that's happening that way, and we're also walking to the park like you just said, and we're seeing all these people, we're not even processing those things in the right way. We just know that there's something wrong, and so until we get to experience enough life, until we get to experience enough, hear enough like you had with your family and so on, until you get those things to come together for your understanding, you don't even know how to process all that. It's just a confusing ass world. And
Yeah.
I like what you said because, people identifying what their mission is supposed to be. And that group doing that, shoot, what? I'm about to look that up when we're done. So, 'cause
Yeah, it's called
that's really cool.
Invisible. It's what it's called, and it's really dope app. Like it's an app that you can download on your phone, and when you're at a Confederate monument, you can take a photo of it. Well, basically, like you can scan it. You can scan the monument, and it comes up with everything you need to know um, about that monument, but also there's like buttons that you can click that gives you tools on how you can assist in getting that particular monument
Yeah.
taken down. So
That's
petition
cool.
for it, you can click to that. If you need to call the local like politicians, it actually tells you who the local
Oh,
politicians are that are responsible for that district. Like it tells you everything you need to do to assist the process of getting that particular monument taken down.
that's really cool. Who runs that?
There, that is run by the Georgia branch of the NAACP, and a actually a private company, a an advertising agency called 22 Squared. So they came up with it. 22 Squared, it was actually their idea, and they partnered with the NAACP for the rollout. But yeah, it was a
Really cool. That's
privately
really cool.
that
That's
was like, um, this is bullshit, and we have the money and the means to do something about it, and we're going to do something about it.
That's cool. Let me. So you go around and you talk, and sometimes you use the bullhorn, and other times you are in front of youth, and other times you're getting at people for what's happening.
Yeah.
Um, what what has been the most fulfilling call that you got? You got there, and not just the call itself, but the actual response, the whole experience from you, like from your vantage point, where you just walked away from that and was like, man, all of them need to be like this. And it just took you to like another level.
I work with an organization. I am the entertainment and culture chair for a task force here in Atlanta called the People's Uprising.
Oh,
And
cool.
we have a branch of the People's Uprising. We have a committee. We're a series of committees. It's a mix of community leaders, activists, regular people, and lawmakers. We intentionally put and lawmakers. So we have a few congressmen and some city council people that are part of the People's Uprising. And one committee that we have on the People's Uprising is called YAL, which stands for Young Atlanta Leaders. And so this sector is just for anybody 25 and between 18 and 25.
Okay. Yeah.
They legitimately run the organization.
That's cool.
They run the organization. The rest of us take our marching orders from the Young Atlanta Leaders. Like committee chairs were like, I have this idea. Let me check in with the Young Atlanta Leaders so we can pull it. And so every time I'm out in the streets with them, the most recent video that I put out of me speaking, I was with them. I was with the Young Atlanta Leaders, and I'm always just so impressed by these kids. Like
Yeah.
how well informed they are, how organized they are, how consistent they are. Some of these kids have been out in the streets protesting for over 100 days straight,
Nice. Yep.
like nonstop.
Yep.
And they're passionate, and I watch them speak, and they cry and pour their hearts out, and they
Yeah.
organize, and they know the laws, and they know the rules, and they've
Yep.
arranged before we get to a protest to have a stopping point, and they've alerted police that we're going to be there. They've done what they need to do to keep everybody safe. We had a freedom ride. They organized it. They got in touch with activists on the ground before we got to these different cities. Like, I just think about me between the ages of 18 and 25, and I'm just like, I just wasn't this. Like, this is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
not this. What
You
you
want to
got?
know what I was? You want to know what I was doing between 18 and 25? I was rocking stages. I was like, trust me, I
Your
was on.
best life.
Yeah, I was on
What do you
stage
say?
doing the thing. I play sax and drums and keyboards and all kinds of stuff. But I was blessed to have toured with some big acts.
That's
Yeah.
dope.
We can talk about that. I still
Yeah.
get to play sometimes, but I deal with this chronic Lyme disease thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have that fight. So it kind of physically that is kind of how it was part of how this came to be,
Mm-hmm.
because not only the struggle as a Black man watching all these current murders,
Yeah.
current thing, watching that, and then I get to think back to my life when these things were happening in South Carolina to me. Then I start thinking about my dad and mom, and I'm like in tears on the futon, man, talking about
This is generational, right?
yes. I'm all these things are catch up. I'm 51. I'll be 52 in December, and I watch all these things.
Well, that saying is true, boy. Black don't cry.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You're right.
I would have never guessed you were 51. I mean, 51
Well,
is young, but you know what I mean.
But that's why I try to do this beard, because I'm trying to make it look, bring the wisdom factor in
You
there.
trying to look a little more grown up.
Yeah, But I appreciate that. That's awesome. And you're lovely. You are my queen. So for anybody who has just tuned in or is going back and forth, I know you're doing lunch, dinner, or whatever with your family, and you're doing homework maybe with your kids. Appreciate you coming through. Hang as long as you can. Just feed them like a hot dog while you're sitting on the couch or something like that. It's good. But you're listening, being privileged to be in the company, as am I, of Kimberly LATRICE Jones. She is a New York Times bestselling author. She is a director. We're going to talk about that in a minute. She is an activist known all over the world now. She is phenomenal. And let me tell you the best thing, and this is not just for intro. This is because you, like, I know I like I said, I trolled you. Every time I seen your name pop up from Instagram, I got the alerts happening. And so I'm watching where you are, and I'm going to watch it. And so, but you extended your hand to me when in this, because trust me, as funny as I can be and all that, and all the stages, I have learned how to be humble and try to, I know where I am in this thing. I'm a baby in this, and I need your guidance, and I need some of the other folks that I chat with, and so, but you had no hesitation with just giving me like all kind of direction, and I was like, this is real business right there. This is real talk. So, folks, I want y'all to know that this is the kind of person that we are all aiming to be as Black folk. And white folks, you need to be it too. But as Black folk, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to achieve things, and we're trying to make changes, and we're trying to create a new condition for ourselves, and be what Miss Jones is, what Miss Kimberly LATRICE Jones is, because that is how we continue to win and how we can grow. And that kind of love, man, you don't get that from everybody. Trust me, I've had a lot of people talking about not answering any messages or nothing. So I appreciate you without a doubt.
And I try to get to as many of them as can. I don't get to all of them because there's so many coming in every day. But I do try to take at least like some time out of my day every day to try to go through and respond to as many people as I can, because people are hurting, people are in pain. Some people are excited about participating because they've been looking for their moment to come in. You don't want to I don't want to be the person that crushes that in anybody. Like, I don't want to be the person that like makes someone feel because it's funny, because growing up I was a kid who was bullied a lot, and so I understand that feeling, of that awkward feeling of not feeling welcomed in a space. You know what I mean? And so as I got older, as would happen with most kids that are bullied, at some point I became a bully, because I became like, all right, I'm not going to be reactive, I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to be the bully, and then nobody will bother me, nobody, people will leave me alone. And so as I got in my 20s, I found some balance between all of that, of just like, okay, I don't need to bully people, but I also don't need to take crap off of people either. And I don't need to be concerned that much about what people think or say or feel or whatever. And so, but what I found is that when I got to that place where I had that level of security within myself, is that I realized that the moments where I didn't feel welcome, just like one word of kindness from like one person could have made all the difference in the world. Like one person saying or doing something to indicate, I don't understand what's happening here, but like, you're okay, kind of thing. And so I try to be that for other people. If I can, what does it hurt me to give somebody some information? Like, what does it hurt me to share a kind word with somebody? And I say this all the time. I saw it as a meme one time, and it like, sometimes memes at the right moment can be prolific. I saw a meme a long time ago that said kindness is gangster, and I loved that. Like, in a world that's so harsh and cruel and critical. We created a culture of thinking we can cancel human beings and that kind of thing. I'm like, it's so easy to fall into anger and verbally assault each other.
Yeah.
And that's easy. Like it takes real, you know, security and patience and wisdom to express kindness as
Yeah.
hard as possible.
Yeah, well, you're doing a heck of a job doing it. I wanted to say the other word, but I don't curse anymore. So,
Good.
but so I definitely appreciate it, and and again, you showed it again with this, because you could have been relaxing, getting some relaxed time in, and you gave me this again, so I appreciate it.
Anytime.
So tell me about um, the movie scenario, and I want to roll in it. Like I'll be an extra. I'm cool with that.
I wish I had control over that, but I mean, maybe I will. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
That maybe I'll write a song for y'all.
Yeah, they so the book. It's funny because the film rights for I'm Not Dying with You Tonight were being negotiated before we run the Image Award, before my video went viral, and and so it just got closed after that. But there's this amazing woman named Autumn Bailey who is a producer, and she has a production company called Prominent Productions, which she partners with uh, Cameron Burnett, who is the son of Mark Burnett.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and the legendary producer.
Yeah.
So they have a production company called Prominent Pictures, and they partner with a company called Radar.
Yeah.
Radar Films is the company that did the most recent Jumanjis.
Yeah.
Um, and so they came together, those two production companies, and they optioned the film rights um, for I'm Not Dying with You Tonight.
That's
They
crazy.
are working. They are working on a script right now. They've sent us a few rough drafts of scripts,
Yeah.
and so they are working on a script right now. They do have an actress that's going to play the main character, Lena. They're looking for someone to play Campbell, but the ball is rolling.
That's awesome, man. Look, I know you had to been like when you heard that for the first time, you were probably like, all kind of silly dance or something.
Yeah, because filmmaker by trade. That's what I went to college for. I dropped.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's what I went to
I
college.
didn't know that part.
Yeah, I went to film school at Columbia College in Chicago. I studied film with a concentration in producing. I didn't finish. I did 1 year there, and then kind of like went off into the world as an artist and just began pursuing filmmaking and writing,
Yeah.
um, predominantly as a screenwriter. I got into novel writing I just got into novel writing like maybe 7 years ago. So right before Geely approached me about writing this book is when I started, because I was managing a bookstore, and so I got
Right.
involved in that world. Um,
How crazy is that?
huh?
That's crazy. You know how your footsteps are led.
Yeah.
Like God is no joke. How He does that because
No.
you don't even know you turn from this direction to go in this other direction, and then all of a sudden, in no rhyme or reason that we can figure out, then you're writing a novel, and then you're the screen. I mean, what? That's just nuts.
It's so funny because I was working in film. I was working what we could because on a film budget there's a heavy brick line, right? And there are people who are above that line on the budget, and there are people who are below that line. And everybody above that, there's only a handful of people above the line.
Yeah,
That's like your producer, your writer, your director. Depending upon who's cast in it, maybe one of two of your lead actors, but that's only if they're like, you know, Michael
yeah.
B. Jordan
Right,
or
right.
something like that. Um,
Right.
and so those are what we call above the line people, and everybody else who works on a production is below the line. And so I worked a lot of like below the line jobs, like way below the line. Um, uh, like the lowest job is a PA, and I was a production secretary, which is the next step above it. And so I worked a lot during that, and then I got pregnant with my son, and um, I took a break when I was pregnant with my son. When I was pregnant with my son, I was working on Medea's Family Reunion. Medea's Family Reunion wrapped, and I was maybe like 3 months pregnant. And I started on House of Pain with Tyler Perry. And I started on I worked like prep on House of Pain, and I had to leave because they put me on bed rest because I had a high risk pregnancy. And
Oh,
so I took a break for a long time and didn't work in production. And then when my son was about 2, I returned to production. I worked on I Can Do Bad All by Myself, a movie Tyler did with
Yep.
that starred
Yep.
Taraji. And
Yep.
so my baby was 2 at the time. And when I would leave as production secretary, you're like the first person there and the last person to leave. And when I would leave home for work, my baby would be asleep. And when I would come home at night, he would be asleep.
Aw.
That I absolutely hated that. And so I said to myself, when I rap, I can do bad. I'm going to take a break from movies until he's old enough
Right.
for me to be okay with it.
Right. Right.
And so I did that, and I kind of like wandered around, bumbled around for about 2 years, trying to find myself, trying to figure out what else I could do. And I landed this job at this children's bookstore. It was originally, I kind of like, honestly, I kind of like started like falling on hard times, and I went and applied for the first time in my life. Now, keep in mind, I told you I grew up middle class,
Right.
adjacent, but middle class. Money had never been, my struggle had more been like tangible racism in the sense of like cops harassing kids. I grew
Right.
up gang, and there was a gang infestation trapping us in. And definitely at my second high school, I went to 3 high schools. My second high school, it was flooded with gangs, and it was like
Right.
and I was dealing with that kind of stuff, but I never
Right.
was the kid who was like, oh, I came home and there was no food on the table, or I came home and the lights were off. Like, that wasn't my lived experience. Mine was more like I had to learn how to fight very young, because I grew up in a neighborhood where like girls would jump you like 10 at a time. You know what I mean?
None. Yep.
Yeah, so I never had that experience of like food insecurity, of housing insecurity growing up, but then I started to experience it as an adult,
Yeah.
which was very difficult, being a single mom. And my ex, my son's father, who's a very active and fabulous co-parent, we found a pocket of time around that time where we both kind of fell on hard times.
All right.
And he was supportive in the sense of like being able to say, I'll take him for a week, and till you figure something out, and then can you take him for a week till I figure something out, kind of thing.
Right. Right. That's cool.
Yeah, and so I found us being like food insecure in the house, and I finally just had to swallow my pride, and I went down and I applied for welfare. I applied for food stamps, and here in Georgia, if you apply for TANF, which is the welfare check, you have to take a career class. And in
Right.
that career course, they help you to like make a resume and job hunt and all of that stuff. Because basically what they're saying is, we don't want you to think you're just going to get this check and like live on it. You need
Right.
trying to like figure out something, which I get. I
Right.
told, we don't need hand.
Absolutely.
We need
Absolutely.
hand up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I never actually got the check. I never received a check. I was getting the food stamps, but I never got a check because I was in the program for like 3 weeks, and I got the job at Little Shop.
Right.
And it was like a 30-day process to get the check and all this stuff. And it was like, nah, I don't need to have a job.
Right.
But it's funny because were I not in that program, I wouldn't have been job hunting at the level in which I was job hunting, because it was required when we were there during the day to like do this, to like send our resumes out. And there was a time in the day where they would give us like bus cards if we didn't have a car. And you were supposed to like go out for a certain amount of hours and apply for jobs. And you had to have this sheet where you showed that like that's what you were doing. And
Right.
so applying to Little Shop was honestly me doing my sheet.
Doing your thing.
Yeah,
Right.
doing my sheet. And I ended up getting hired.
How
I
cool is
didn't know when I got hired that this little children's bookstore was a legendary children's bookstore that was known as one of the greatest children's bookstore in the country. And they had won a Pinnell Award twice, which is basically like the literary world's store version of like an Oscar or whatever. They were
Right.
like Pinnell Award winning store. They had this amazing reputation. And so I started working there, and I realized that they weren't just a bookstore, that they were like low key, kind of like a community center. It was a
Right.
place where they had after school programs and summer camps, and kids could hang out there after school. And it was like this old school family environment of like, parents would call and be like, hey, is Shane there? And we'd be like, yeah, he's fine. And they'd be like, okay, tell him I'm going to be outside in 10 minutes to come outside, that kind of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was like this super amazing, beautiful space that I got to work in. And so the owners, Dave and Diane, gave us carte blanche to like create shit. Like, as long as it was within reason, like we could create a program and be like, this is the budget for it. And can I do it? I want to do this theater program. I want to do this thing, this whatever. I want to start this thing called the Galley Club or whatever my mind came up with. And my coworkers said, well, like we could do it. And they allowed me to create for the community a space where kids could think that like authors were rock stars.
Right, right. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like super dope. And so eventually I worked my way up and became the general manager. And being the GM of Little Shop meant I got to speak on committees about the importance of children's literature. I served under President Obama. I served on the selection committee for the National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. I
Oh,
worked with Children's Book Council, like all these amazing, amazing opportunities that came from like working at this little bookstore.
that's amazing. That is really amazing. Again, another thing, you don't know the steps.
Right.
We don't even understand it. That's why I think it's so important to literally do what you said earlier and focus on get a focus on who you are and what you think, at least, because it could change, but what you believe your mission is supposed to be, and then you keep your eye on that.
Yeah.
And then what you're going to end up with, if you do it with that kind of enthusiasm and that kind of heart, you're going to far supersede anything that you was thinking it was going to be.
Yeah.
Because you apply yourself different when you put your whole self into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's amazing that you came from an accident, I got a job, to GM to, I mean, that's insanity. That's insanity.
And so when I started shopping my book, it was easy, right? Because as a bookseller, you are the bread and butter to publishers. So publishers would like fly us out to events because they're trying to sell. Because as the GM, you're one of the store's buyers. Like they're trying to sell to us. We every year there's this huge conference in New York called BookCon. Like they roll out the red carpets for booksellers because they want you to buy their wares.
Right.
So I had so many relationships with publishers and editors and agents and marketing executives at publishing houses that when my agent put my book out on submission, people were just like, oh yeah, I know Kim Jones. I know her from Little Shop. Like my agent said, people kept saying, oh yeah, I know her from Little Shop Stories. I know Kim. Oh yeah, I'll definitely look at her manuscript. And so it kind of like opened up the floodgates for me to write because I had all these relationships with people from being a bookseller.
Now, listen, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but I know that you're writing right now.
Yes. So much stuff.
Do we get like a sneak, at least thought of, or maybe like it's kind of about this or that, or we get something?
So I can reveal I can give lots of hints and reveal some things tonight. So Obi is getting an exclusive. Okay.
Truth.
So two books that I can talk about that I'm writing. One is untitled at the moment. We're trying to come up with a title. Initially, it was titled "I Will Fly Again," but we don't think that title is not testing well, so we're going to come up with something else. But it is another co-authored book with my friend Geely. It's in the same style as "I'm Not Dying with You Tonight," so it's a dual narrative of one black character and one white character, and told in alternating chapters, the same as "I'm Not Dying with You Tonight." But it's the story of two girls, two teenage cheerleaders who are best friends, who are on a cheerleading team together, who decide on a Friday night to take a knee at their high school football game, fallout from that.
Nice.
And it examines how we punish children of color harsher in the school system. So it examines that notion and that conversation. And it also examines the notion of what it looks like to be an ally and how what allyship is supposed to look like as opposed to like trying to like lead the conversation. So that book is again untitled, but that's also coming out on Source Books. It's another co-authored book with
nice.
and I.
I'll get to hear it here.
Yeah. And then I have my solo book, which is called How We Can Win. And I wish I actually have the cover and nobody's seen the cover.
Oh, true. Hey, listen.
Let me see.
Folks, you guys are listening to Kimberly LATRICE Jones, and she's giving us like some scoops, snippets of stuff that nobody else knows about yet. So
I'm gonna try to pull it up on my laptop, but if not, But anyway, so I have, it's called, but anyway, the book is called How We Can Win. And it
Yeah.
is basically taking my speech that went viral, How
Yeah.
We Win, and expanding on it. So,
Tell me about that too while you're looking. So because I like when I found out about your speech, that was from my brother. So I don't know if you remember me telling you this message, but one of my first messages to you was after my brother, who saw some of your stuff, and he doesn't really do a lot of talking out loud about it because he just gets all jumbled up. So, but he's kind of activist minded too, like me. But he don't feel it's his job to to get out there and push it. He does just do posts. Oh snap! We're looking at it. How we can win. That is dope. Hold on, I wish I could take a
I
screenshot,
really
but I don't know how to do it.
yeah,
That's cool.
that's the
So
cover.
that is a book she's working on right now. You guys
Yeah.
just saw that. Don't blink. I'm telling you, don't blink around here. Awesome. I just lost what I was saying.
You were saying you and your brother, you're talking about you and your brother.
Oh, my brother told me to look at this, and I'm watching you do your thing, and I'm like, what? This is insane. I'm following it. I got to find out. So at that time, I didn't even know that you were an author. I didn't know any of the full extent. I'm just looking at this viral business, and I'm like, what? This is insanity. And then I find out who you are. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely trolling this. I'm doing the thing that I get mad at everybody else for doing. And but it's really cool to be a student of you, just so you know, because I get to watch how you do things, at least the things that you allow us to see, and when I see that, I'm another person like you when it comes to how I approach things with I want people to feel what I'm doing, and so I have a lot of haters that come on my posts and everything else. I'm talking about to the point where other people are cursing these people out for me, and I have to then go back and tell them not to do that.
Yeah.
and so it's a really interesting place to be, because I don't believe that I'm going to achieve even getting an ear if I respond how they're doing it.
Yeah,
and
you can't. I like try not to respond to trolls.
Right.
Like they
but
have
I have
super far
right.
from me.
Well, I respond, but I do it in such a. Can I say that I'm almost like a military minded? How they, I do it. I have such a plot and a strategic. That's what I was going to say. A strategic way that I respond to those things, where I'm feeding them information that is opposing what the hate-filled stuff that they're saying, but at the same time, I'm inviting them to come talk to me more, because I was telling, I actually got called for an interview Monday, and I was telling this young kid from college in Charleston, I was telling him that when we're trying to, because I can't do like you, like, because some of my physical limitations, I can't go on marches and stuff like that yet. I'm not to that phase.
Well,
so it's only this.
It's of COVID.
Yeah. Well, this is what I got. And so I told him, I said, that if I approach this in a way that takes me out of the picture, I'm just basically what I am is a thought. I'm a process. I'm not I take the other element away so that I'm not offended by what they say. Right. And that way I can keep my message on point and get it said. And it's not up to me to determine who is going to be affected the right way. I'm not here to change anybody. I'm here to be a vessel of an idea, of a concept of how we can overcome this evil human-demic that I call it a human-demic of racism. God bless you. And so that's what I do. And I try to encourage everybody else to do the same thing. And you do it like you're a master of it. Yeah. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah. No, I learned a very long time ago that, like, you can still be strong willed and stand on what you believe, but also be savvy and recognize that not everyone deserves your energy.
Truth.
A
Truth.
general, a general is not doing hand to hand combat with another soldier. That's not his job, you know.
Right. Right.
And
Yep.
so, like that's not my job. People are looking to me as a thought leader to guide them on what they need to do, and so part, not even part, 80% of what I have to do is live how I want people to live, and that's the example. Um,
True.
20% the works that I do. It's 80% how I live, and how I respond to things. I'm teaching people that. I remember very early on, like I've never been a girly girl. I've never been that type of girl. And like even my guy, like he's not like, he's not the kind of guy that's like concerned about like, kind of like more like surface things. And so I just like don't think about things. Like I don't care about things like clothes and stuff like that. Never
Yeah.
have.
You beautiful anyway, so it don't matter.
Yeah, thank you. So I never have, and so um, I remember like very early on when we were like in the streets a lot, and I was like in the streets every day, and there was videos circulating of me in the streets every day. I was wearing like war clothes. I was wearing like t-shirts and jeans and whatever was comfortable because I could
True.
be caregiver,
Yeah.
could be anything could happen. I just needed clothes that I could move in. Um,
Right.
and so I remember this girl came on one of my pages and was just like. I support you, but I'm concerned. I can't remember exactly. I'm paraphrasing, and trust me, she definitely didn't say it in like a nasty way. I could
Yeah.
definitely tell her intent was to be helpful. But basically, what she said was like, "Let me dress you," kind of thing. Like,
What?
if that's what you want to do, if that's what spirit is leading you to do, and you want to like buy me clothes,
Right. Amen.
and I, and she said something to like I'm to the effect of like meaning no harm, and I said in the post like I sense no when I responded to her I said I sense no malice here,
Oh,
um and if that's what spirit is leading you to say that you need to do to contribute, by all means knock yourself.
that's right. That's here's my size.
Yeah,
Here,
right,
this
be
where
it
this is my
sizes,
favorite store.
right, do have your will. And I remember like everyone who commented at her underneath that feed, basically the gist of what they were saying was we don't think that this matters, we don't care what she's wearing, that's not the
Right.
point. But since and almost every one of them said, but since Kim said she doesn't see any malice, and well, I'm just gonna leave it alone, because they were like
Right.
they were like, this is what you're concerned about. um
Right.
but it's funny because had I not made that statement offering her some grace,
Right.
knowing her intent, because I know her
Right.
intent was not, it may have been ill placed, but she didn't have, there was no malice intent there.
Yep.
It guided everybody else to respond to her in a way without them like
Right.
ripping.
Like that up. Yeah. It's because that's what happens. It's like that's why I constantly do I have to go back because I get like now at this point like I get lots of messages and lots of people where they're definitely trolling me without a doubt.
Yeah.
And they're the minute I put something, and sometimes I kind of on purpose post certain things that
Yeah.
have a little cut to it,
Yeah.
just because I want to provoke a thought.
Yeah.
And so they definitely they get at it, and I have to literally make sure that I might be tired or whatever, but I gotta make sure check that one, check that post, make sure you read all the comments, and so I'm like, I get exhausted just from doing that. But
Do you want to hear a little trick for that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I hope no one spreads my trick, because then it won't be well. I don't block people.
I don't either.
I put them on restrict. I restrict them.
Oh, but see, that's on Instagram, right?
Yeah. So, because I'm mostly on Instagram. So
Mine is on freaking Facebook, so I can't do that.
That's my little trick on Instagram, is that I don't block them. I restrict them, because
Yeah.
if you block them, they know they've been blocked. And most of them are like fake pages anyway, where it's just people,
Right.
bots, and everybody trying to like stir up trouble. And so if they know you're blocked, they'll just go to another one of their fake pages and come back and comment. So I put them on restriction, because when you put them on restriction on Instagram, they can still see all of your posts. They can comment, but nobody sees the comment.
Right.
And
Now you know you're on Facebook right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, I don't remember if I
Yes,
told you that or not,
yes,
because
yeah.
I,
So
I couldn't.
I'm like, I that's how I get rid of them because they don't come back at me with another page because they think they're still interacting with me. But low key, I'm not
That's
doing anything
hilarious.
they're saying.
Listen, that is great tactics. But I'm cool. I'm cool with, I don't, I've grown to not really, I guess through the practice of doing it this way,
Yeah,
it don't really phase me anymore. Like, I've been called all kind of ends and everything else,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not that's
Like
not
you don't
affecting.
know me, you can't.
I got you on my live stream right now. That's way more important than some fool calling me whatever. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
And
True.
that's like do they really affect your daily lives? I'm like, I'm not gonna argue with like internet trolls who don't actually have any effect on my life, who don't know me, who can't actually make commentary about my character or
True.
anything like that. Like, um, and it's like I'm more concerned about my local politicians who aren't having an effect on my life.
True. I wanted to talk about that, but in a minute. I want to talk about some politics. But I want to ask you one more question before we get to politics.
Hmm.
What is your, like, what is the end prime thing that you wanted, like, when you're, and you can be like, okay, I'm done, even not, maybe you're not totally done, but you're saying, if I achieve this one thing, or maybe this one crowd, or maybe this one, whatever it is, rather it's book, whatever it is, because you do so many things, you got 12 hats. So, but what is the one thing that you could feel like, if it had to be the last thing, I'm okay because I did that? And,
Okay,
or maybe have you done
I have not done it. And
it? Okay.
it's two things, but I'm going to use this as a cheat to do two things only because it's different categories,
Yeah,
right?
give it to me. Give it
Um,
to me.
so as an activist, my like one thing that I'm like, if I could see this one thing in my lifetime, I would be so um I would be like so super happy, is that I want to see the reinstatement of the Freedmen's Bureau. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of
Can you,
people don't know.
explain that? Can you explain that for anybody who might? Because
Yeah. I'm gonna wait. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna put some.
oh yeah, do your thing. Do your thing. I'll talk about you for a minute. So yeah. So those of you who are viewing now, those of you who are sticking your head in and then sticking your head back out, we are blessed to have Kimberly LATRICE Jones with us tonight. She is award-winning writer, author. She's on the movie tip now. She is I don't know, I have to come up with like a new name now. Like, she's a loving activist, like not just fight, but love too. And she spreads it and shares it, and it's really it's a blessing to have her here. Oh, you're back.
I'm back. I'm back. So yeah, so if I could have one thing as an activist, it would be to reinstate the Freedmen's Bureau. And the Freedmen's Bureau um was run by Dr. Oliver, I mean Doctor, I always call him Dr. General Oliver Howard, right after the Civil War, which is why Howard University is named after General Oliver Howard. The Freedmen's Bureau was the bureau that was put in place for formerly enslaved people, to assimilate them into society after slavery. It was not given the resources that it was needed at the time to run properly. But what they did have in place was, General Oliver Howard had control of about 850,000 acres of land, land that was like abandoned by planters and stuff like that during the Civil War. And so this thing that we talk about, the 40 acres and a mule that people always hear, came from that, because what he was doing with the Freedmen's Bureau was giving people 40-acre plots, because he was saying, I don't have the resources to give you everything that you need. But what they did give me was this land, and like that's key and critical. Take advantage of that, and you'll be straight. And so he
Right.
started passing out the 40 acres, and when he would have them, mules, which is
Right.
where the saying came from. Um, so people always say we never got our 40 acres and a mule, which is actually not true. We did get it. General Oliver did start to pass it out from that land. But what happened was, when Lincoln was killed and Johnson took over the presidency, through a series of events that I won't go down the rabbit hole of that. Basically, what happened was all of that was overturned and the land was taken from those people.
Right.
And then those people had to sharecrop on the land that they had just owned.
Yeah.
And so Um, So that promise was never fulfilled. And then black codes were put in place. And then the 13th
Right.
Amendment, which is basically a like really savvy way of putting people back in slavery,
Right.
happens. And then you roll out of that into Jim Crow, and you roll out of Jim Crow into the war on drugs, which is hysterical since now we know for a fact it's not a conspiracy theory. The documents are out there that the black community was allowed to be a guinea pig for making drug money in
Yep.
order to fund wars. And so you
Yep.
have that happen. And then mass, on the back of that, the audacity of mass incarceration to
Yep.
increase on the back of that, knowing that it was centered around a drug war that was basically put in place.
Yep.
Um, and so and then there's things like redlining and all this stuff. So there's been all this systemic stuff that has happened, that has held black people back from having generational wealth and a shot at actually having equity
Yep.
in the country. And so the one thing that I would like to see is the reinstatement of the Freedmen's Bureau, and for it to finally live up to its potential and do what it is, which is to
Yep.
put black people on an equitable path in America, which is what we're missing.
Now, are you in touch with anybody to try to, push that is there anybody that you're working with to try to get that into somebody's house or Senate or?
Yeah, I can't call the name right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But there is a
But
congress.
you are working with
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah. There's a congressman that I've been having serious conversations with about it.
Very nice.
And
That's very cool.
yeah, and is working on getting me in front of Congress to like have that conversation. So yeah, so
I'll
yeah.
be watching that. Trust me, I'll be watching Fox, CNN, I'll put every TV on that. Watching that thing. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Again, pointing to your heart, pointing to your passion. That everything that you do seems to have an outright overt passion, and not just let me find the hustle,
Yeah.
but literally you're doing work, you're laying steps, you're planting stuff that other people can then walk into. When we don't want you to go anywhere, but whenever you do, then we know that you laid out stuff that we can all just jump into if we are wise. And well, actually, I'm gonna be gone before you because I'm dirt. I'm Moses. but
You and I are 6 years apart from each other.
look, let me tell you, there's a lot of 6 years right here. It was a long 6 years. Trust me, a hard long 6 years. Sorry, I got to try to switch this back so I can see messages. For some reason, this app that I use for this Be Live thing, it works great for me and you and other guests to come on, but I get a delay, so I might get somebody sending a question like 20 minutes later. It'll show up on my So I've been trying to get them to fix it, and I think I just put out a feeler to try to find another app that I can use. The reason I like this, there's no time limits. So you know how a lot of the apps you have to, like Instagram, whatever, you got about an hour and then they shut you down. You got to start all over. Yeah. We could be on this for like 3 days if you want. So I know I can't take up all your time because I know you got to get some rest too. Few things. Definitely have to talk about voting and I want you to, without me even prepping or prompting you, I want you to give my people your take on what we are supposed to be looking at this as and how we are supposed to approach voting and so on. Because I talk to them every day. I go through all this stuff. If you ever get a chance, I know you're too busy, but if you ever got a chance to check out one of my apps, you'll be like, this dude is for real. I'm not as for real as you, but I am for real.
I love reading your posts. You and there's this other page I read, History Retaught. The two of you guys like give me my life. Like,
thank you.
I love both of those pages. I'm just like, yes, I've learned a lot from you guys.
Thank you.
I have this new campaign that I'm working on right now that's called Push the Vote.
Okay.
That I created. And the reason that I created Push the Vote is because I wanted people to recognize that the vote is not the beginning. I mean, it's not the end, but the beginning, right? So you like push past the vote. Like once you vote, then that's just the beginning. That's like I like to think of the vote as the ticket to the show, but it's not the show. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah. So once you, first of all, local. Your local elections have far more effect on what is happening and how we're setting precedent for cases than anything that's happening on the federal level.
Yep.
You look at a situation like the case of Breonna Taylor. We didn't lose that at the White House. We lost that at the Kentucky DA's office.
Correct.
You
Yep.
know, and so that's what I want people to recognize is that like paying attention to your local elections has far more of an effect on your life and actually on the national conversation. Because if Breonna Taylor's murderers had been convicted, that would have set a precedent. That would have been a case that other DAs could have used around the nation
That's
to
correct.
start making difference and change. And so you have to push past the vote. And so what I mean by that is one, your local elections are far more important than your federal elections. You need to be paying attention. Two, you cannot go into the voting booth and spin the tail on the candidate. You need to be informed about who you're voting for, about what their record is, and about what it is that what it is that they're going to offer your community. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yep.
and then the other thing is that you have to make sure that you are familiar with what that vote and what your citizenship gets you in terms of civics, right?
Right. Right.
There are whenever there's an amendment, a resolution, or a bill or something that comes up, then there is a public comment line that is open for a certain time, period of time or on a certain day where the constituents can call of that community and even outside of that community can call in and make public comment on this bill or resolution. And so
Right.
they by law have to listen to public comment.
Right.
Do I think that all politicians are just warm-hearted like the alderman that I grew up with? No, but what they are is they're politicians who want to be reelected. So if 30% of their constituents call in and say I'm anti this bill or I'm pro this bill, they're going to have to listen to that because they know that 39 that 30 that engaged 30% will be the same type of people who will make sure that they get out of office if they're voting against everything that they're saying
Exactly.
that they
Exactly.
and so you have to use public comment. Whenever city council has an open floor, the public can come in. Like citizens can come in and get time on the mic and make comment. We don't do enough of that. Our elders, they are amazing at do that. Seniors will show up to those meetings. They
Yep.
will have comment. They will be prepared. They'll know what it is that they are saying and doing. Hang on one second. Did you need me? No? Okay. Sorry. Someone in my house was like waving around. I thought they needed
Oh
something.
no, yeah. If you, let
Um,
me know. I don't want to. I don't want to hold you if you
no,
need
no,
to.
no. They're
Keep
fine.
you as long as I can. But
Yeah, so so we have to do things like that. Like, so we have to show up to city council meetings and make our voice be heard. I'll DM you this video. I think you may have seen it. There was this amazing brother who works for the ACLU in New York, who showed up he lives in Syracuse. He showed up in Syracuse to pitch why they should defund the police. He did it as a citizen of that community, but he
yeah,
had the information because he works for the New York ACLU. But like
right,
he like crushed it and killed it, and like
right.
had like you saw it. He had like
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
ducks in a row, and so like every citizen has the right to do that.
That's correct. I think we and you're 100% correct. We are not invested in this whole political game, and more importantly locally. And I talk about this all the time. I talk about trust me, some of my episodes, man, I'll be on for like almost 3 hours, just me talking, and because there's so much to cover, because
Yeah.
I feel that obligated to make sure that I'm constantly saying this stuff to people. And if we are not engaged locally, then we can't be mad at anything that happens federally
Right.
because we didn't take part. If somebody tells me vote blue, I don't. That goes like I don't vote blue. I vote who, and then
Yeah.
when I and
Vote who you have
yeah,
voting who, and see here's the thing: we think that we like vote for the president. We do not. We do not
I know.
president. Um, what you vote, what you assi- you know when your vote counted? Your vote counted when you elected your congressmen and your senators.
Yep.
That's when your vote counted. Because what happens in a federal election for the presidency is that you are voting. First of all, the decision is made by the Electoral College,
Right.
right? And so there are two ways in which we affect the Electoral College. One is who we vote in office in Congress and the Senate, and the second is filling out your census form. Those are the two things that you do that control how much power you are giving to who's going to be president.
Right. Right.
When you're going and you actually vote in the federal election in November, what you're doing is giving a message to your elected official who they should select on behalf of your community.
Right.
Because
And there's so much money involved in this thing too. Our communities do not, our schools are relying upon the tax money, but if they don't know, because they start to restructure, redistrict, and all those things based on who is counted in these census things. That's the only way. So we don't do that. Now we're sitting there with less computers, less funding for books and whatever else is happening in school. Our policing becomes worse because whatever policing is in our district or our area, now we don't get the pick of the litter. We just get, we get those probably the mad, corrupt, racist cops because, I mean, so everything centers around our local engagement in all of the processes. And if we don't, then we're literally just giving it away and then being mad about it later. Like it makes no sense.
Yeah. So that's what we have to do. We have to engage at that level. We have to be voting locally. We have to be voting federally. We have to be doing our census. You have to call in on public comment. You have to show up at city council meetings. You have to pay attention to the amendments, the bills. Like, for example, I live in Georgia, right? I always use this one as like my example because it's like the easiest way for me to express it to people, right? So I live in Fulton County. The county line for DeKalb County is about 2 miles from my house. In Fulton County, because they have a different legislative system than DeKalb County.
Right.
In Fulton County, marijuana is decriminalized. It's not legal. You can't have it for recreation, but it's decriminalized in the sense that if you get pulled over with the user's amount of weed, the most that they can do in Fulton County is write you a $50 ticket and take it. They can take it and write you a $50 ticket. That's it. That's all they can do. In DeKalb County, which is 2 miles away from my house, 2 miles. So I could drive 2 miles up the road. If I get pulled over with the user's amount of marijuana, I go to jail.
How crazy is that?
I get a case.
That's craziness, right?
A severe drug case.
That's craziness.
When 16 blocks away, I get a $50 ticket.
That's nuts.
Like, that's the part that people aren't realizing about why their local elections are so key and why filling out the census form is so key. Because you don't elect the president. The Electoral College elects the president. And how the Electoral College gets its power is through census forms. And then you select your congressman and your senator who are electors. And they listen to they look at the combination of both the census and the vote to say, okay, we pick. So we don't actually pick the president. The Electoral College picks the president. Hang on one second.
I hope you heard that, people. Y'all go?
Wait, no, hang on one second. What'd you say? I can't hear you.
Again, you guys were listening to Kimberly.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. Kimberly LATRICE Jones, who has blessed us with her presence on her downtime. She's just kicking it with us, giving us some knowledge. Amazing. Don't forget the book, by the way, everybody. I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. You got to pick the book up. Or if something's happening, you're totally tapped out because of the COVID. It probably is online somehow. You can check it. Maybe you could even go to your local library or go to a bookstore and just do like we used to do. Grab you a little McDonald's something and go to the bookstore, sit down and read a book.
Yes.
And that would be the book. So let's see. So we got voting. Tell me. So you talked about earlier about allies.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me, how do you pick who you're going to, because I know you can't accept everybody to be like, I'm partnering with you, because there might be something wrong with somebody that might taint, what you're doing. So how do you pick who you're going to partner with?
I do the research on the people. Like I have my team do like a deep dive on the person.
You got a team, see?
Yeah.
I'm working to get a team.
Yeah. Yeah. I have my team do a deep dive on the person. And, I like to meet people, obviously, when we're not in COVID, I like to meet people in person because I trust my instincts. I'm 44 years old. I didn't make it this far by accident. I trust my instinct. I pick up on the vibe, and I am a person who always feel everything is multi-tiered.
Right.
To be singular. So it's like I see if I vibe with the person. I see the intel that my team gives on them. I also, though, I know the same thing I was saying about the company who's does invisible hate, and that's their focus and that's what they do. I also am a person that's like, I'm very clear about what my mission and my goal is in life and the direction that I'm in. And I don't allow ego to make me think that I need to be involved with everything, because that really is just me wanting to be seen everywhere.
Right.
I don't do that. I know what my ambition, I know what my mission is. I know what spirit has led me to do. And so if it doesn't fit in that, then I don't do it. I wish them well. And if I could do something simple to help signal boost what it is that they're doing, I'm happy to do that. But I don't like to lie to people. I don't like to make commitments to people that I can't fulfill. I don't want to say, yes, you might have a brilliant idea for a nonprofit and I might think that you could do it. And I may, once you have it up, post it on my page or mention it in an interview or donate to it or do whatever I need to do to assist in it. But I'm going to be honest and say, like, I don't have time to be on your board because I have a full-time job as a writer, a full-time job as a filmmaker. I'm the entertainment and culture chair for my organization, the People's Uprising. I have another nonprofit that I run, Hood Girl Heroes, and we partner with a few people and do this thing every month called Revolutionary Healing. So I have and I have a mom still. I have a 14-year-old son. I have, a significant other that needs my time. So it's like, I am honest with people about the fact that I can't serve on the board, but if you are having an event, send me a flyer and I'll post it.
Right. And I think it's important too, because you can't get to everybody. No. I mean, I did the hustle to get to you, but everybody, you can't get to it. And you have your way, your process of who you pick. And so people have to understand that when you're trying to achieve your attention or other folks' attention, whatever way they're going, that they have to be ready to understand that it might just not apply to you, Miss Jones, all the way. And so they have to be okay with taking that those to keep in other words, keep stepping. You don't have to quit. You don't have to stop just because you're not getting what you think you're supposed to get, because this world don't work like that. No. Believe me, this world does not work like that. It is an extreme blessing again that I have you here in the Food for Action house. And by the way, I want you to walk away with something too. So I wanted you to know where Food for Action came from, and you probably already figured it out. So when all the time, I was always one of those big, deep analyzing everything in the music industry. I'm always, trying to be on, I was always the band leader or always the, an MD for this, that, or the other, right? So everybody started knowing me as this, I'm always, don't send something Obi's way, because he's going to break it down and twist it and turn it and flip it and whatever. So you come up with this constant thing where it's like, okay, we're just gonna mention something to Obi, and then it'll become food for thought, right? Which everybody says, hey, we get some food for thought, blah 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 blah, and that way they don't have to get tore down from me with me going all in deep on it. So that came up to me once I thought that I was going to keep on doing this, and I realized that I can't just approach this as it's a thought-provoking thing. It needs to be an action-provoking thing. It needs to be thoughts that we then churn, we analyze, we process, and then we do something with it. And so I promote that, So I just flipped it and became food for action instead of food for thought. And that way people actually hear it that way.
Yeah.
So that it's not, I don't want nobody to think that it's okay just to talk about it, because it's not.
Yeah. No, and it's like, we don't have to give people these like massive assignments, right? Like,
Right.
it doesn't have to be like, oh, I am, you have to like get a law changed, or whatever the case may be. It's like, it could be as simple as like, it could just be as simple as like, hey, I know that there is a local politician who's a mom at my kid's school, and I'm gonna not only put a sign out in front of her yard, I'm gonna drop a post in the neighborhood parent group so people know she's one of us, that they
True.
vote for her. Like,
True.
you can be a change agent with simple things like that. Because
Right.
that's somebody who's going to be from the community that's going to do the right thing, that you guys can actually have conversations with about what next steps should be.
Right.
So even doing like that, like, position yourself to have a voice where it matters. Like,
Right.
yeah, you have 20 free hours a week, then yeah, go run that single moms campaign who's running for office, and then when she's in office, you have the intel necessary to like do more work. Or that doesn't even have to be that extreme. It could be as simple as, like, for example, like Invisible Hate. That app is a perfect example. That is literally just a matter of you standing there with your phone and scanning it and then shooting a few emails. They even have stock emails that you can just send to the
Yeah, but
public, and
I'm getting that. I'm getting that at.
yeah, you
Without
help get one of those Confederate monuments down. So
one.
doesn't mean changing the course of your life. It just means
Right.
participating in the world that's happening around you.
Guess what? 2 questions that'll lead right off of that. One, and I want you to be distinct if you believe it needs to be.
Mhm.
What would you tell a white person that is, because we all know white folks that are like, I want to help, I want to do something, I want to blah, blah, blah. What would you tell a white person, and what would you tell another black person?
So I would say this to our allies. 3 things that I always say to our allies. The first thing is you need to do the inner work on yourself first, so that you're prepared and equipped to be in this fight and be useful in this fight. We all have a certain level of prejudice and implicit bias that that we don't realize that it surfaces, and it normally surfaces when we're in a heightened state, when we're mad, when we're sad, when we're whatever. And so I always say the first step is to do the inner work so you can actually be in the conversation properly. There's an amazing book called Me and White Supremacy by Layla Assad that is actually written for white allies to do inner work to be better. And it has the standard book, and then there's also a workbook that you can order that comes with it. I tell people all the time, order Layla Assad's book, Me and White Supremacy, and first step, do the inner work.
You said that on one of the first things that I followed you on.
Yes. So I'm like, do that work. The second thing is listen and know that you are a supporting actor in this movie, not the lead. This is not about you taking the charge. There are nuances about being black in America that white Americans don't understand. They're coming into some understanding of it during this enlightening period. But there's some things that you don't understand. So what you need to do is listen, because we know what we need in our community. We know how we need people to take the proverbial foot off of our neck.
Right.
We know what that looks like, what that feels like. And you may not have the lived and informed experience to do the things that are the necessary right steps to get us to where we need to be.
Right.
And so the second thing is listening.
Yep.
Actually listening to the people that you want to be in allyship and understanding what it is that you need. And the third thing is there's a brother 19 Keys who always says white allies have black receipts. And what that means is like we have been placed in an economically disadvantaged position, and it is
Right.
what's been able to keep us held back for so long, is being economically disadvantaged. And so
Right.
support black business,
Yeah. Yep.
support black business, support black artists. um,
Yep.
you know, allowing more income to circulate in the black community is not taking anything away from your community. It's just making another community more viable.
Right. Yep.
And so
Yep.
those are the three things I would tell an ally to do first. First, do the inner work. Go ahead and get Layla Assad's book. Follow people like myself and Sonia Renee Taylor and Blair Amani, voices like that you can take advice from. Obi, I think I mentioned another site earlier called History Retaught. History Retaught is just a teacher, honestly, a teacher who started following me and a bunch of thought leaders. And because he's a history teacher, he would take, what he does is he takes something we say. So he'll take a post I make, he'll take a post Sonia Renee Taylor makes or someone like that, and then he'll do a deep dive on history with it. And
True.
he'll do like a 3 or 4 part series on it. He has gained tons of followers during the pandemic because people have now taken him on as a thought leader in the sense of what he's promoting with history. But like
Right.
that came from him being an ally and saying, I'm not going to lead the conversation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the black thought leaders and see what the marching orders they're giving me, and then I'm going to expand on them.
That's dope.
Yeah. And so, and this is a white high school teacher who lives in a town that's like 90% white.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this,
That's dope. And that really shows and proves that person is about the mission
oh, yeah,
and not about the spotlight. Because
yeah,
we don't need that. We don't need you to
yeah.
be the spotlight. We need you to
No,
be.
you
We
just
need you to fund. You can fund the spotlight.
right.
Yeah.
And he'll say that, like he'll post it in his stories and be like, this lesson, this 3-part lesson that I'm doing today is based on this post that Kim made. That's based on this post that Sonia Renee Taylor made. That's based on this post that, Riza made or whoever made the post. And so that's what I would say to my white allies. Do the inner work, listen to know where you can find your space, and then support black business. Those would be the first 3 steps. When I'm talking to black people who want to be in the fight, first thing I tell themselves is educate yourself with the facts so that when you're having conversations with people, you're not speaking from a place of emotion. You're actually speaking from a place of information, because you can always beat someone in an argument when you have information. If they start talking to you about black on black crime, then you need to know the statistics on that, the root on that, where that language comes from, the actual numbers.
Have you seen some of my posts?
Yes.
I give people I break it down.
Exactly. And because that's what you have to do, right? We have to recognize as a community that we can no longer be in a hard fight and recognize that we're in a head fight. So we have to be heady in this fight. And so I tell black people, start to educate yourself. I spend an hour a day every day educating myself, learning new things, watching documentaries, reading a book, going through websites, all that kind of stuff, trying to learn new things that assist me in the fight. But you don't have to commit an hour. You can commit an hour once a week. You can say Mondays from 8 to 9, I'm going to educate myself.
Right. It's just constantly feeding.
Yeah, just constantly feeding yourself with information so you're actually prepared to have these fights, and you can have them from an intellectual and non-emotional standpoint.
Let me make it clear, Food for Action folk, you just heard a leader tell you that she's constantly feeding. So if she's constantly feeding, then y'all need to eat a lot. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, you definitely got to do that part. And then the second thing I would say, going back to one of the same things I said to the allies, like circulate the black dollar, support black business, offer each other more grace. We don't offer each other enough grace as a community. And I know that these are residual effects of slavery and Jim Crow, where we are often the most awful to each other.
Right.
Because that is the way we've been groomed, and it's been passed down generationally because of the way in which we had to interact with each other when we were enslaved, and then when we were a heightened, visible state of oppression when you're looking at civil rights and the Jim Crow. And so offer each other more grace, support Black business. But sometimes you got to have a little bit of patience. You have to recognize that the girl who opened this vegan spot in the hood did not have the startup capital that her white counterpart would have. That
Right.
has been redlined. She was not able to get a loan. She's starting this business with her 401k money, and so she may not have all the resources. You may go in there one day and the drink machine may be down. She may not be able to afford to have the drink machine fixed that day. You know what?
Right.
Offer her some grace and say, you know what? I'm gonna get the combo. I know it comes with a drink, but I'm gonna still pay the same price. Don't worry about it, sis. I'll be back to support you. You go to McDonald's 100 times and the ice cream machine is down. It doesn't stop. You know what I'm saying? You go to a Black business one time, bad experience, and you're like on Yelp and telling everybody not to go there.
I find that, I mean, and sorry to sound harsh, but I find that disgraceful when we do that to each other.
Yeah.
We're supposed to strive
like
to
if
be
someone's just running their business like they don't care. I'm not telling you to support like you paid for it and you didn't get it. I'm not telling you to allow people to be abusive to you. But what I'm saying is don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes to us, like let's give each other a little bit more grace. And the third thing that I say to Black families is recognize that being in this fight is a family conversation. Talk to your kids.
Amen.
Talk to your kids. Have these conversations with your kids. They are having the same lived experience as you, and they need the support. They need the understanding. They need the safe space with you to have these conversations so that they're prepared to go out in the world and survive it, if you will.
Yeah, you're true. That's the truth.
Yeah.
You are the truth. You know that, right? You are
right. All the time.
Like I could do this with you. I could literally do this with you for days, just be sitting around. So I'll ask you one more thing, and then I know you had somebody hollering at you. So unfortunately, I have to be polite.
I don't know what he said, so he's left out of the house. He's no longer.
I want to ask you something that's really it's something that I have dealt with just in the past few weeks, and I just want your opinion. So I started getting, and you might have seen a post about it, I started getting these text messages from Lindsey Graham's campaign people from South Carolina, sending me, telling me that for my convenience, they're going to send me some voter ballot request forms, right? And I'm like, what? I've been living in Ohio since 2013. Why are you all of a sudden reaching out to me about that? And at the same time, what is the Republican Party complaining about now? They're complaining about voter absentee ballots.
Yeah.
So why are they sending me that? So I went around and I called some other friends from other states because I did music, traveled all over the place. Found out that many folks in Colorado, West Virginia, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
Democrat, I ain't heard a Democrat yet say anything about the fact that Republican, and they have to know.
Yeah.
It can't just be me and everybody that I know knows that this is happening.
There was a girl on my page recently who posted she got an absentee ballot and it had Trump propaganda all over it. I'm like, ballot, why is it not nonpartisan?
Right. So they're sending these unsolicited things to me. I don't even know where they're actually sending the actual paper, the actual documents to, because I don't live there.
Yeah.
Right. So who's getting these things, and are they filling them out? And what's going on with all that? So what do you think? Because I'm putting you real political now. What do you think about that part of the hypocrisy that's happening?
Election is going to be a debacle. I think we are looking at Trump doing the same type of misbehavior that our governor here in Georgia did, Kemp, when he got in office and stole the election. Stacey Abrams. I think we're looking at the same level of shenanigans that's about to happen on the federal level. And so I've been telling everybody, if you are going to the way that the only way that I can see us beating it at this point is everybody doing everything early. Everything in early, because I feel like where the water is going to get murky and it's going to get crazy and wonky is towards the end. when they're deciding that ballots didn't make it on time, when they're deciding that when the polls are like overrun with people and they're doing like they did where they like close the doors on people even though there's a line outside, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So my thing is like the way we're gonna beat them with the shenanigans that's happening right now with the voting is by being no one can do anything late. No one can
Right.
do anything last minute. I know because of COVID, there are a lot of people who still don't feel comfortable going out. So if
Right.
you are gonna do an absentee ballot, do it now.
Yeah. Oh, I did a whole thing.
Yeah, like do it now. Get it out of the way. And if you are gonna vote in person, vote early. Or if
Yeah.
you are gonna vote on that day, get out there at 6 a.m. so that you know, even if you have to stand out there for 2 hours, that you're going to get in and that it's not going to be an issue. Early is the key because I feel like where they're going to be able to toss votes, not count votes, all of that's
Right.
in the ninth hour.
That's truth. Listen, I definitely respect that. I told everybody the story of how I literally stopped my mail person and talked to him for a minute while I filled out the form that I got, the one that I did request here in Ohio. And I made him stand there while I did it. So, right? So I just gave it right back to him. So I try to tell everybody that I know, do that.
Yeah.
Give your mailman a cup of coffee or an unopened can of soda so they can feel like they don't have to worry about COVID, you know, and turn it right around. You don't have to think about it no more. It's done. Yeah. Everybody, you've been listening to Kimberly LATRICE Jones, New York Times bestselling author, director, activist. She makes mean cookies, I'm sure. I mean,
Actually, I'm not a good baker.
You don't cook? Oh,
but I do make a mean sweet potato pie.
That's all I need in my life. Hey, don't tell your dude I said that, but I'm getting me some sweet potato pie. Yeah. So listen,
pie.
Listen, I want to thank you so much. Like, true. Please forgive me, by the way. I forgot to tell you about the glasses. Theirs are not to be cool glasses. These are because of the headaches. So they're actually prescription.
I thought they were to be cool glasses. I thought they were musician glasses.
No, they're prescription glasses because I have these crazy headaches from the Lyme disease thing every day. And so this kind of helps me. So especially when you have to stare into a computer.
But I would just like you to know that because you're a musician, it just seems normal.
Thank you. All right, I'll take that.
This is just his look.
I'll take it. Thank you very much. Listen, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you.
I hope one day down the road we can do it again, and when I'm more experienced at all this.
Yeah, if the world opens back up, who knows where we'll cross paths when the
Amen. And please keep doing what you're doing. I know you're loving on folks, and folks are definitely loving you for it.
I appreciate that.
I love you, man. I love you.
Thank you, Obi. Thank you for having me on. This was so cool.
Thank you so much for sewing in. I appreciate you sewing into my life and everybody else here. All right. Be safe. Be safe out there, okay?
All right.
God bless you. See you later. Yeah, you guys, that was Kimberly LATRICE Jones. She is just incredible. I don't even know what else to say. Like, just incredible. Just an amazing, amazing Black woman. And she again, something that she said, which is obviously awesome, and I've said it before as well, is that just because we are into this activism thing, just because we are here to fight racism, it don't mean that we don't like or we hate white people. That's not what this is. This is our attempt at trying to even the playing field, trying to even the seats at the table. We're trying to even the opportunities. We're trying to even the access to what America is supposed to be offering to everyone. If it wasn't this way, if there was no such thing as systemic racism, if there wasn't racism, if this wasn't happening, we wouldn't be talking about it because we'd be sharing the platforms and sharing the seats at the tables and sharing the access, and everybody would have equal footing and everybody would have equal funding in their schools and in their communities, and there would be no problems. So the fact that there are these problems, the fact that you can my white brothers and sisters, you can go to the library and you can read, or go on Google and you can read yourself that there are deficiencies in our communities, in funding, in schooling, in healthcare, in job access, in higher job access, like, in other words, in management, general management, and ownership, in loans, in any. I mean, if you can think of a system that exists in this country, you will see that there is significant. We're at a significant disadvantage in every way. When we get arrested, we get larger sentences. But this is how it works. Anything bad, we get more. Anything good, we get less. We get less access to money and loans and good and better schooling and technology and so on. We get less internet. I mean, we get so much of the lessers. The good things, are so far and few and far between. Nobody. Look, there are probably people all over the world of every ethnicity that takes advantage of the system and whatever else. I mean, look, we just heard about Trump billionaire, quote unquote billionaire, who pays $750 in taxes for a year. Look, I don't remember a year like that in my life. That's insane. So a person making $20,000 a year pays more than that. So it's just insanity. But again, but you, my white brothers and sisters, have to understand that this is not something that was created by us. This was put upon us. This was put upon our backs and upon our necks. And so we are trying to pave a way out of this predicament. And the only thing that you guys should be doing is helping wherever we need a hand. Remember, I used to say it a couple weeks ago. I was saying, I said, I challenge you to wake up in the morning and say, what can I do for some black folk today? That should be your mission. That should be your heart right now. Because just as, even if we say that you say that when we talk about this, that, well, it wasn't you that owned slaves, or it wasn't you that killed people, it wasn't you that was the Klan, it wasn't you that, well, wait a minute. How can you say that on one sentence, and then the very next second, you're just rallying around your quote unquote heritage and rebel flags and all that business? How can you do that? And it matters then for this heritage thing, but it doesn't matter when we're telling you about systemic racism, because they came from the same place. So if you're going to take one, you got to take all. You can't just say, well, I'm gonna back the rebel flag, and I'm going to back my heritage and all these statues and buildings named after people who own massive amounts of slaves and tore apart families and raped black women. And so you can't say that you're down for those people, but yet those are the things that's where the systems were created from, when we weren't considered people, but yet there's no such thing as systemic racism to you. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. So this is one of the reasons why we do this kind of thing. I'm new to it, but this is why I'm doing it. This is why our great guest, who was just here, Kimberly LATRICE Jones, does it. Again, please go out and get her book. Oh my gosh, I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. Amazing book. Please go get it. I'll make sure that I follow up with her to get all the different resources that she was talking about, so that I can post them through later on this week. And other than that, I hope that if you were here tonight, if you stuck your head in, you got something good, because I know that's all that she was doing, was giving out good stuff. And I hope that if you're going to see this later, I hope that, you take some good time with it. If you weren't able to watch the whole thing, she gave us a lot of time. I mean, almost an hour and a half. And that's just amazing. And this was on her downtime, and she gave it up. So it's amazing. I thank you, Kimberly LATRICE Jones. I thank you so much. Make sure that you guys follow her on Instagram. She said she's mainly there, so you look her up and do that. Keep your eyes open for her upcoming books, which she gave us a sneak peek at. That was freaking cool. And make sure that that you follow her. The steps. I'm sure she'll give us updates how the movie's going, and other than that, educate yourselves, love into folks, be part of the solution, acknowledge that there's a problem, and be part of the solution, and vote. And know who you're voting for, why you're voting, and make sure that you're demanding something and holding these folks locally accountable. It's not just an act of, putting a sticker on your chest after you went into the voting booth and you pressed a couple buttons and then it's a wrap. That's not what this is. There is a purpose behind this action, and there has to be meaning, and there has to be reasoning, and there has to be something that you see that is needed. And we all know that there is, because we're talking about it. So we have to find out who those people are. Who are those people that are going to help us achieve those goals and that access and all those things that I spoke about, and that Ms. Jones spoke about. And we have to make sure that our votes mean those things. And so if you don't approach voting that way, then it's just going to be another, stupid, pointless, whatever. And we don't want this one to be pointless. It can't be, because lives are depending on it. Your children's lives are depending on it. My daughter's life depends on it. The future depends on it. So we have to approach it like that. And we have to make sure that we are voting for local public officials that are doing the right things, that are in alignment with the morals and the objectives that we want to achieve. Okay, so I love you guys. I thank you for tuning in. Thank you again to Kimberly LATRICE Jones, and I will see you guys on Sunday. I'm going to post a list of people that are going to hear, but if you're still there, let's see. We have, on October 4th. So next week, Sunday, I'm going to be by myself. Oh no, wait a minute. Sunday is the 4th. Ta-da! On Sunday, October 4th, guess who's in the house? Chris Kirkpatrick from the group In Sync is going to be joining me. And we're going to talk about some of the awesome things that he's done with the group by himself, and some of the awesome things that he's doing now. He is definitely, he loves it on the community. He's a good guy, man. Really great guy. A lot of you know that he contributed to my medical things for the chronic Lyme disease thing, which I add that. Please, if you browse around my profile when we're done here, please give if you can. Thank you again, Brian Dales, for doing that, and thank you for anybody and everybody who tuned in tonight. Please keep watching these things, and again, go back and watch this one a few times, because Kimberly LATRICE Jones gave you mad knowledge and mad wisdom tonight. So I will say goodbye. I thank you very much. Thank you for supporting me. Oh, I almost forgot. My partner, one of my new partners in this, is MLO shoes or footwear, and I should have their shoes by the next time. So I got to check the tracking, but I should have that, and then that way I can show you at least a pair of their shoes. And but they're the new partner, and we should have some news about a couple more partners soon too. So that's going to be kind of cool. So I thank you guys for letting me come into your homes, come into your lives, and I hope this is doing somebody somewhere some good. Thank you again. I'm humbled and appreciative. God bless you. I'll see you Sunday, same black time, same black channel.